Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. I am Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach. Today is Saturday, March the 13th, and I am here to go over a one-game early showdown slate and a seven-game NBA main slate that starts at 7 p.m. Eastern. So great to see everybody today. Gotta love the weekend. Good stuff. I am, however, wearing my black hat and black shirt, the all black today, because my smoking hot 5-day streak pretty much came to an end. We squeaked out a few cash games, and we squeaked out our two brains are better than one lineup barely. But all in all, with Joel going down, that just sunk the ship. He was on his way to 60, 70 point easy DFS game. So it is what it is. There is that variance in the NBA, and as there is in all sports, and it happens from time to time. So we did have some really good calls. Andrew had some nice calls right on the nose as well. But today we're looking to put the whole thing together and just make it a complete sweep and get back that money train roaring down the tracks again. So a couple of things real quickly. Very excited to announce this weekend that a couple of new partners have come aboard. We're going to be working and also they'll be sponsoring some of our podcasts, and we'll be working with them and supplying some of their information and content on our website and in our Discord. And that is Monkey Knife Fight. Awesome folks over there. Really excited about that. And also Super Draft. Super Draft is a blast as well. So I'll get a lot more into those two as we go on this weekend. We'll be launching that on our website, and we'll have special offers and promo codes for both. So very excited about both of them. And our today's podcast is sponsored by BetUS. Go to betus.com.pa for all of your wagering needs. And if you want to re-up here or join for the first time with Coach Talk, we have an awesome offer through our friends at BetUS. If you go to betus.com.pa and sign up and use the promo code Coach Talk, all one word, no space, for $149, if it's your first deposit with BetUS, you get to play the $149 on BetUS, props, games, whatever you want there. And then you get a free membership with Coach Talk all the way until June 1st. So you can't beat that for sure. And if you don't want to do the BetUS thing, or you've already got an account there, you can just go right to dfscoachtalk.com and sign up for that $149 deal. You don't get the BetUS part, but you get the membership through Coach Talk all the way until June 1st. So definitely take advantage of that. And on the way in here, if you're watching this on YouTube, sometimes we forget to ask, but really the most important thing for us is that thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and hit the little alert button up in the right-hand corner there so that you know when our podcast posts. It's going to get super busy here at Coach Talk in the next couple of weeks, even more so than we are now, because we're doing 7-day-a-week NBA podcasts. We have our weekly PGA, and then we're going to be adding several Major League Baseball podcasts to the mix. So that's going to be a real blast. Looking forward to really get Josh Davis, our MLB pro, up to speed and going on the podcast. So very, very exciting. He is so sharp. We can't wait to add that to the mix. And I'm fired up for baseball too. All right, that's what I want to get out of the way on the front end, and then we're going to dive right into this sucker. We're going to go through I do it a little bit differently on the weekends than Andrew and I do throughout the week, because you get a little bit more time with just one guy doing it. And so I like to go over the probable lineups and then talk about the games in that sense. So let's start off with game one. It is a 2 p.m. Eastern game. It's the standalone showdown slate. And it is the New York Knicks -5, and the over-under is 209.5. Oklahoma City's on the first night of a back-to-back. And, again, this game, we're going to play captain and showdown here on both DraftKings and FanDuel. It's not offered on Yahoo. From the Knicks side, right now, Rose is out, and Quickly and Patton are both, or Peyton, I'm sorry, Peyton and Quickly are both questionable. So talk about a free-for-all waiting to get the news on this game because of the aspect of the game. I mean, you may end up with a Ntilikina or Alec Burks being key plays depending on who's in. If Rose is definitely out, but if one of Peyton or Quickly are also out, the other guy becomes the best play. So follow that news with us here. We'll post some stuff in Twitter for the non-members, but I will be in Discord all the way up until lock. We still have about 3.5, 4 hours until lock. So, we'll definitely get that news and know what's going on there. On the Oklahoma City side, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Baisley are out. So this is going to be a wild game with trying to determine where all the usage goes and how all that's going to pan out. So no problem. We got you covered here. That's what we're here for. And really, the pace and defense doesn't make much of a difference because we're not comparing it to other games. But the pace is 30-13. The defense is 5-9. So this is not going to be a fun game by any stretch. Definitely a warm-up game for the rest of the main slate, which is terrific. All right, the guys that I'm looking at in this game, again, we have to wait for that news because that'll be key. I think Julius Randle, it becomes probably a smash spot captain for a lot of people. Al Horford, also, it becomes a very consistent play here up top. I think those two guys, being the veterans, both on each side deserve the highest ownership really in this game. Then it's just, determining where you want to go. Theo Maledon is pretty good here. Lugens Dort. RJ Barrett, who's picked up his game a little bit. Love Alec Burks, especially if multiple guards are out. I mean, he's going to get run regardless. So he's really a good safeguard at a good price that you could play. Kenrich Williams at times can have a decent game, especially when Shai is out. His numbers go up a little. Not going to go Pokashevsky. Just don't quite think he's there yet. So, again, I don't want to spend too much time on this game because we're waiting on that news. But, again, that real look for me is going to be whichever guard is in for the Knicks. And then, Alec Burks, Julius Randle, Al Horford, and then a combination either of Theo Maledon or Dort probably is at the top of my list right now for Oklahoma. All right. Let's get into the real deal here. By the way, right now they're projecting. I mentioned I was going to do that. So the Knicks are 19-19. They're projecting Peyton, Bullock, Barrett, Randle, and Noel. That's if Peyton plays. Thunder at 16-21. Maledon, Dort, Kenrich Williams, Pokashevsky, and Horford. All right, the main slate. It is a 7-gamer, and it's a really good one. The first game is Detroit at 10-27. Against Brooklyn at 25-13. The BetUS.com.pa line is Brooklyn minus 11.5. So we have a double digit and a 228 over under, which is decent number there. I mean, not bad. We've got some big ones, but it is somewhat in the middle of the pack. Pace wise, Detroit's 26th, Brooklyn 10th. Defense is what makes you interested in this game. 20th and 24th respectively. So they do both give up a lot of points without question. Smith Jr. is on the shelf for Detroit. And then Blake Griffin is not suiting up just yet. He is out today still. And then TLC is doubtful. So not looking good for Timothy for this game. The projected lineups: DeLon Wright, Ellington, Sadiq Bey, Grant, and Plumlee. Brooklyn's Harden, Irving, Brown, Harris, Jordan. All right, the question is, do we pay up here? And DeLon Wright has come back now. He's probably going to split center a little bit, or I'm sorry, point guard. He wishes he was center. He's probably going to split that a little bit with the rookie there, which makes that a concern, with in that game because Smith Jr. is out. So they'll both get run. But I'm not sure, if I trust Lee in this spot or Wright just because of the split and all the great choices of point guard. Jeremy Grant is certainly an outstanding play here. His price is high, which is frustrating, but I like having correlation with a Brooklyn player on the other side with Detroit just because of the pace and the fact that Brooklyn just really doesn't defend well. So on the Brooklyn side, the question is, do you consider Harden or Irving? And, I think Harden's still the best play here. He did disappoint in the last game a little bit. Could have had a much bigger smash spot. I'm considering Harden. Haven't pushed the button, if you will, on this one yet, though, because there's a few other buy-up spots I think maybe more of a key spot. But believe it or not, I'm less crazy about this Brooklyn game than I've been about most of their games. I'm not going to probably mess around with any of the mid-level guys, like the Browns and Harrises and Jordans. And we're getting Claxton off the bench, and there's a lot of guys that they're trying to fit in and get minutes. And on a slate this big, I don't think you have to go too deep here. So probably Harden and Grant, and they're both expensive, so they could be huge plays for me. They're both on the bubble right now, but the two guys that I like out of this game, me and probably 18 billion other people, but two I like. Sometimes I fade the big boys. So, all right, let's go to game 3. It is the Milwaukee Bucks 23-14 at the Washington Wizards 14-22. This is a game where Washington played last night. Beal was questionable, but he played. He's questionable again today, so we don't know exactly what the scoop's going to be there. Milwaukee is an 11-point road favorite, so another double-digit number. Big fat 239 number because you've got a great combination here. Two of the fastest paced teams in the league. Milwaukee 5th, Washington number 1. And defensively, Milwaukee's at 11. They're hanging in the middle. Washington, we know, not defensive-minded, 27th, although improving slightly. In this game, very simply, we need to know the news on Beal. It was just like yesterday. For me, if Beal plays, then, I like playing Westbrook here. Or I'm sorry, if he plays, I'm not going to play Westbrook. If he sits, Westbrook then becomes just a usage monster. I know it's a back-to-back. Westbrook sat out back-to-backs earlier in the season, but he has since been playing back-to-backs and playing full minutes. So, they need every win they can get right now. I know Scott Brooks is one of the 4 coaches on the hot seat that they were talking about as being, possible guys to get fired. So I know every win counts for him, and he's trying to put this squad together. There's also rumors they're going to try to pull a trade off at the deadline to get somebody to help Beal and Westbrook. So we will see how that plays out. But certainly Westbrook's in play, and again, that'll affect my Harden news or Harden decision when we get the Beal news. So it'd be interesting to see if Beal plays a back-to-back when, I think really the decision was, does he play yesterday or play today? Because if he's got a sore knee, not sure why you'd want to, drive him into the ground 2 games in a row. So we will see how that goes. It will definitely affect the game as far as a rosterable game. If Beal sits, that 11-point spread is going to increase. The more likelihood of a blowout is there. So, there's some concern. There is some value that is there a little bit with Washington. You're getting some Rui Hachimura, who's played poorly, but he's still getting minutes. And you also have Denny Advia off the bench, who's starting to get it. I mean, he's a youngster, but since he's coming off the bench, they started him too soon, I think. And but now that he's coming off the bench, especially if Beal sits, I think he's just a really sneaky low-owned guy that can get you 6x for sure. Mo Wagner's been solid. I mean, everybody's always afraid to play him because they do a lot of Washington center by committee kind of stuff. But he's the guy that is the DFS points per minute guy. And I know it takes up a tough spot there, but depending on, where you're playing, if it's DraftKings or Yahoo, you could put more than one center. So Wagner's still in my player pool. As far as paying up on the Milwaukee side, my concern here is, Middleton and Giannis, are they going to be needed for full run in this game? Now, it's the fastest team in the league. I mean, if Washington can hang, then they could be phenomenal plays, and this could be the takedown game of the night because it would stay close enough. So, again, I want to see the news. If Beal plays, instead of buying up to Westbrook there, I'll shift over and focus on the Milwaukee side with either Giannis or Middleton, and maybe even look at a secondary guy there. Holiday's minutes have been increased. If you catch DiVincenzo or Lopez on the right day, they can pay off as well. So, again, news dependent. Sorry to, bury the fact that, not stepping out with exactly who to play here. But to me, it depends on that Beal news. And again, this could end up being a pretty low-owned game for me, or a very, very key game with three representatives here in a game that could be very high scoring. So we want to keep that one on the front burner. Next game, also 7 o'clock. So we've got 3 7 p.m. games, all starting at the same time on the East Coast here at 7. The Toronto Raptors 17-20, Charlotte Hornets 18-18. The Charlotte Hornets are a 2-point favorite. It's a 229.5 total, and it's the Raptors on a first night of a back-to-back, and they have a ton of guys that are still out, COVID protocol. Siakam, Van Vliet, and Anunoby, they're 3 solid starters. So what does that do to this game? Well, it obviously allows you to play Lowry or Powell or both. I think you need to have one of the two for sure. I mean, this is just a smash spot. Their usage is through the roof. Norman Powell's been terrific since they've been shorthanded. Lowry's had some good and some, just okay games. But this one where he matches up against Ball possibly, the big thing will be, who is Rozier going to guard, Lowry or Powell? I've got a feeling he guards Powell here. So, I'm leaning towards Lowry because I think he'll get ball defense. And I think that's where he could be really tough. So I've ridden Powell every game since all these guys have been out with the COVID protocol, and he's really smashed every time. But I think I'm going to try a sneaky fade here on him because he's going to be very highly owned, and his price is now increased quite a bit. And I'm going to focus on Lowry. Now, the other guy, here that's been absolutely killing it is Boucher, and it just drives you nuts because you're just not sure if Nurse is going to play him the big minutes. Now, he was forced to the last game because he went crazy. But, in the starting lineup right now, projected for Toronto, is Lowry, Powell, Bembry, Johnson, and Baines. And so, I mean, that's pretty rough. I mean, you're going to need all the scoring you can get from Lowry, Powell, and Boucher. So Boucher has to be considered strong here. I'm not afraid that he comes off the bench. He's still going to get, I think, 30 minutes here. And anytime you get Boucher at 30 minutes, you got to go after it. Is it one of those Nurse games where he plays him 18 minutes? Hopefully not. I mean, this line is tight, so I think the game stays close. So important game for me. I definitely like the Lowry-Boucher combination here. On the Charlotte side, you've got an interesting dynamic here with their guards all back, but the probable starting lineup right now is what they used this last game, and it was Ball, Rozier, Hayward, Washington and Zeller, and then they'll play at the center spot, and he's capable of having a really solid game. You know, he throws real clunkers on the board. He's a risk reward, certainly a GPP plug and play kind of guy, but cash lineups, there's a bit risk, but a lot of reward if he does pay off. The fact that LaMelo Ball is just solidified in that starting spot is, I think, a really good thing. However, I think he gets Lowry defense, and it, could force Ball more turnovers and not quite as strong of a game. The guy I'm targeting here, and he's much cheaper than Ball, is Terry Rozier. I think he gets just average defense from the other side, and he becomes a really solid play. Hayward's probably going to get Bembry defense to begin with, who's a dog on D, and Stanley Johnson as well, who can defend really well. Don't play Stanley. Stanley Johnson has no offensive game. He is just horrible to watch offensively, but defensively he does get it done. So definitely exposure here. The last two games may combine for 6 of my 8 guys. So these are the two key games for me. I like the numbers and the situation and the usage with the guys out. So I'm going to be firing up quite a bit of Lowry, Boucher, and Rozier out of this game, and then see how the rest of it plays out. Okay, we go to the first 7:30 Eastern game. It's the Sacramento Kings at 15-22 against the Atlanta Hawks at 17-20 with their new coach in tow there. The lineups, probable lineups for Sacramento are Fox, Hield, Barnes, Bagley, and Holmes as usual. And Atlanta, Young, Herter, Snell, they have plugged in there, Collins, and Capella. So, they're still waiting to get Hunter back. I'm sure he's penciled in for that small forward spot. But, Bogdanovich is getting a nice run, and he's super cheap still off the bench. And we know Sacramento can't defend here. So, there's no problem if you target this game as your game. And I think it will be the highest owned game by a decent amount here, because you've got two teams that stink defensively. Sacramento dead last, Atlanta 25th. And then defensively, they're pace-wise, they're 9th and 19th. So defensively, 30-25. So, here's the big game where everybody's going to multi-stack. Whiteside's the only guy out as of right now. You can literally make a case for the starting 5 on Sacramento, and probably Young, Herter, Collins, and Capella. So there's 9 guys, and Bogdanovich. So 10 guys you can consider to make out your roster at all different price ranges. I think you have to have exposure here, but this is where I'm going to be a little contrarian. Instead of having 4 guys from this game like almost everybody's going to have, I'm just going to pull out 1 or 2 and just try to pick the guys that do smash it and to fit in with the rest of them. So that's the approach. This game becomes key for me, as, not fading it by any stretch. I think you need to have exposure, but not stacking it. So the question is, where do you go here then? De'Aaron Fox certainly has to be high at the top of the list. He's expensive, but he certainly has to be at the high end of that list. That's really, even though the other guys are all very solid, Hield's consistent. Barnes, though, is expensive. I don't like Holmes as much against Capella defense. So I'm hoping to be able to fit Fox in, but we will see. And then on the Atlanta side, it's a no-brainer on these guys. Trae Young, fantastic play, without doubt. Herter and Bogdanovich both are in play. Herter finished the game the last go around, but again, Bogdanovich should start to steal into those minutes. I may not go with either one just because of the concern of the split minutes. Snell is more of a defensive guy. Collins against Bagley is a nice matchup for Collins. I think he can school him pretty good, but his price bothers me, but he's certainly in play for me. Clint Capella, he smashes all the time with, gobbles up the rebounds and gets points. But there are times that they play him off the floor. And this is one of those games wide open with where the bigs might get run off the floor a little bit. When Holmes sits, sometimes they just move Bagley to center and they'll put in another guard or small forward. And when they do that, what it does is pretty much place Capella off the floor because Collins will generally stay and guard Bagley, and then they'll just match up with other guards with Sacramento. So again, that's part of the reason why I'm not stacking this huge game that could very easily be the highest scoring game on the slate because I want to just cherry pick a few guys, good guys like a Fox, Collins, and something of that nature. But I don't want to go deep here because I think there's some risk with some of these guys, and you're going to get really over-owned people in this game as well. Okay, a couple real quick things. Definitely a great time to become a member at Coach Talk. You can join for as little as $10 for a 3-day pass. If you jump in there today on Saturday, you get all our weekend action. We're having a fun contest too. We always have contests with our members, and this one's going to be a blast. It's the NCAA tournament. Can you believe that? The selections are tomorrow. So we're going to have some really cool giveaways, memberships, merch, the whole 9 yards for our NCAA bracket that will be for members only. So you get a chance to be part of that if you jump in this weekend as well. Again, I want to thank our main sponsors, which are BetUS.com.pa, Super Draft, and Monkey Knife Fight. So more to come on all that stuff as we go forward. And then again, if you're listening to this through audio, we're on everywhere podcasts can be found: iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeart, Apple Podcasts, etc. We really appreciate if you just take a couple seconds, give us a 5-star, make a quick comment. All of those things mean a ton to us, and it helps us move up the algorithms within those podcast hosts and move up the scale and get seen by more people. So same thing goes with YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, thumbs up, subscribe, hit that alert button. All right, we go on to the 3 remaining games, 8 o'clock game, and then we have the 2 late nighters. The 8 o'clock, the second 8 o'clock game, Trailblazers 21-15, Minnesota 8-29. Not pretty. I don't know, between Minnesota and Houston, it's pretty bad. Houston's it's one of the worst teams I've ever seen, Houston, I swear, right now with all their guys out. But anyway, Portland, their projected lineup: Lillard, Trent, Jones, Covington, Cantor. We've heard that, and it's been consistent for a long, long time. Minnesota right now: Rubio, Edwards, Layman, who's been hitting some threes, Vanderbilt, and Towns. So in this game, we know McLaughlin is out at point, and of course, D'Angelo Russell's been out. So it does elevate Rubio big time. And then Jalen Noel, who broke the slate last go around, certainly also an option there. Both playable. Rubio's price is up a little. Noel's still is pretty respectable. Anthony Edwards here, the first pick is definitely a threat against the Portland backcourt that doesn't play, do a very tremendous job defensively by any stretch. And then, on the other side, if you're going to, you want to use that pay up somewhere, Lillard's definitely one of those options. I mean, he's such a super stud. It's ridiculous. You can't obviously choose all of them, but, he may be the pay up guy of choice here. And again, some of it will depend on the other news for me, whether I go there, but he is my favorite guy out of this game. The spread is pretty close. BetUS has it at 4.5 and 233.5. So, that close spread with that high number, again, it's similar to that last game. You need some exposure because it can be a high scoring affair here. And the oddity with this new COVID NBA schedule, these two teams play again tomorrow. Same two teams, 2 days in a row. So obviously there's no advantage on the first night of a back-to-back because they're both going to play each other tomorrow. But, it makes this game interesting. Pace 21st for Portland and 3 for Minnesota. And defense 28 and 23. So the Sacramento, Atlanta, and Portland, Minnesota games here back-to-back, horrendous defense. So, it's hard not to plug guys in left, right, and backwards in this game. You got to start with Lillard, talk about him. Trent can be a decent play here. I like Enes Kanter and Cat, both sides of this. Neither one is a really strong defender, and both of them, could have really big games. I mean, it's obviously completely different price points, but they both need to be considered depending on what type of a build you're doing. Rubio, and, like I said, Noel and Edwards are in consideration. Don't really want to go Layman, Vanderbilt, McDaniels. They bring in off the bench, just starting to shuffle that group quite a bit. So I think sticking to those guys that we know are going to get mid-30s minutes if this game stays close. Lillard's a runaway on the Portland side, but some of the prices have gone up on these guys, which is frustrating, but you can consider Trent, Jones, or Covington. All three of them get good minutes, and Carmelo does as well. So, they're a high-scoring team. They're playing a fast team, so it's a big pace up, and another team that doesn't defend. So, hey, more power to you if you stack this game. I certainly think that can be one of the strategies, but I'm going to do similar to the other game. Not going to have any games stacked or over owned tonight. I'm going to really try to spread out and pick the right guys from the right games. So lots of consideration from this game. Not many bad plays out of it either, because there's going to be extra possessions and a lot of points to be had. So this is a great slate. I'm telling you, it is a terrific slate. You're not going to have dead chalk all over the place because there's so many great selections. Even on the pay up guys, it's going to be spread around. So you're going to be somewhat contrarian from the get-go, I really believe. All right, the last two games, and I'm not crazy about either one of these games. They're both the 10 o'clock games, and I hate when this happens, but I always preach, don't let the time of the game affect your plays. And, if Portland, Minnesota, and Sacramento and Atlanta were the last two games, then I'd have those games, I'd have a lot of exposure there. So I'm not letting that deter me. But it is tough when you have a 2-hour break till the last games and you have nobody rostered and you have to, hang on for your life by your fingernails. But, you may have a big enough lead that's, insurmountable. It's also possible that way. So, just thinking, hey, I've got to have some exposure to these late games so that I have somebody plugged in there. That's not smart playing, in my opinion. I understand your want to have that because you want to, be able to root for somebody in those games. But if I was you, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play that 2-game late slate by itself. So I don't feel pressure to put somebody in to these early games because I really don't stand out like anybody in either one of these games. So let's talk about them, though. But I wanted to make sure and get that across so that you don't force. Because if you force a guy, he can break down your whole lineup. I mean, you lose out on one of those good plays from early, and then you got to, then it's sort of a double reverse on you. All right, the Mavericks at 19 and 17 still can't figure out why the hell they forfeited the game basically this last time out. After 8 days off, they sit both Luka and Porzingis for rest. Just asinine, in my opinion. Their 19 and 17 projected lineup is the guys are back in. Yeah, after a loss they couldn't afford to take. Doncic, Richardson, Finney-Smith, Kleba, and Porzingis just like normal, and then all those guys off the bench. Denver, same thing. Murray, they've had Monte Morris in there for a while now. Barton, Porter, and the Joker. This game, the BetUS number on it is Denver -1.5 They are on the second night of a back-to-back, so that does give an advantage Mavericks there, since once in 10 days, maybe they'll sit a week after having to play this one. I don't know. But it's 226.5, so it's a fair number. You've got the problem why I'm eliminating this from my group. They're 22nd and 28th in pace. So you lose a lot of possessions. So why spend the entire salary on Luka and the Joker, to the highest price guys, or even Porzingis in that sense, because they're just all super expensive. Two very, very slow teams. Yes, Dallas is 26th, Denver 16th defensively, so that's nothing to write home about. But, to me, when there's that many less possessions and, half-court offense is playing, you're trying to get those big boys. You need 65 to feel good, maybe 70 even from a Luka or a Joker. And I just don't think there's enough pace in this game for that. So don't like the secondary guys on either side here. There is a big rotation. Denver has a bunch of their guys back now that had been out for a while. So a lot of guys getting minutes squeezed there. And on the Dallas side, same thing. You've got guys that had played prominent roles now coming off the bench, like the Hardaways and Burks and stuff like that. Just don't like the feel, the mix, or the pace of this game. So I am going to pass. Last game. It is the other 10 o'clock game. The Indiana Pacers at 16 and 20 against the Phoenix Suns at 25 and 11. The projected lineups for Indiana: Brogdon, Holiday, McDermott, Sabonis, Turner. Phoenix: Paul, Booker, Bridges, Kaminsky, and Ayton. Now, there is a tag on Booker as questionable to probable. I believe he plays, but it is a second night of a back-to-back. No, it's not. They did not play last night. So I think Booker, will be fine there. It is the second night of a back-to-back on a tough loss for the Pacers last night. So I'm not sure if that affects their rotation that much. He's had a tendency to play his guys a decent amount of minutes on those back-to-back. So there's nothing that stands out to me that says, this guy is going to get limited minutes. So there is a consideration here. You've got Indiana at the 11th pace, but Phoenix is second to last. And, we've been on this rampage all year, but it's worked. We've pretty much been fading a lot of Phoenix games. And the reason being is they're terrific on defense. They're eighth on D, and they play really slow. And as far as their side of the ball, their main guys with Paul, Booker, and Ayton are splitting up all the love there. So it's very hard to really want to go that direction when Indiana's a pretty good defensive team themselves at 13th. So Phoenix is 6.5. It's a 221 number, which is fair. But again, it just doesn't jump off the page to me. Brogdon started out last night like he was going to break the slate and then had it really, really slowed down the second half. All that bunch of guys with Holiday, McDermott. And then, of course, the great news in this game is Karis LeVert is playing. So thank God for that, man. What a tremendous story. If you didn't hear it, he was traded, which was a shocker, and then had his physical, and they found a cancerous mass on his kidney. So he had that removed, and he's been rehabbing, and he's doing great. So it very well could have saved his life. So a real blessing there, and a terrific, terrific player. How is that going to affect this Indiana team? Where are those minutes going to come from? Can't wait to see how that plays out. That is really going to be fun. And then not too long down the road, they'll get TJ Warren. So you talk about a loaded team with a bunch of alpha dogs that need the ball. It's going to be very tough to figure out, but a very dangerous team to play. So, but right now, LeVert probably I'm thinking 15, 18 minutes first time out. I wouldn't think they'll push him much harder than that, but still it will mess up that rotation. So not thrilled with that side on Indiana. And then same scenario with Phoenix. Ayton had a really bad game the other day. Just look disinterested. I'll tell you, I'm becoming less and less of a backer of Ayton. His game is very unmotivated, and he just does not seem to consistently get it done. Booker, certainly can do well, but there are some good defenders in the Indiana backcourt. Same with Chris Paul. His price is up high enough now where it's very hard to roster him. So there it is, man. I mean, tons of recommendations in the early games, zero recommendations in the late games. But it is what it is. That's how it rolls out. So all in all, though, a fantastic slate. And I highly recommend, getting a lot of exposure to Toronto, Charlotte, Sacramento, Atlanta, Portland, Minnesota. And then, you want to scoop probably one or two good guys from Detroit and Brooklyn as well. So love the matchups, love the slate. I hope everybody absolutely smashes it tonight. Again, if you want to check us out, we're at dfscoachtalk.com. You can join, and we'll get you in there right away in Discord. So big shout out to all of our members. We've had a great group enter, tons of interaction and good information about all sports in our Discord. So you want to check that out for sure. So I appreciate it. I hope everybody really enjoys the slate. I hope everybody cashes big. And I'll be back again tomorrow with a really interesting Sunday slate that has games throughout the day and night. And we'll get that to you as well. So for the entire team at DFS Coach Talk, I am Joe Sarvati. We'll catch you again tomorrow when we look to crush it in DFS.